Live every day at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It is Orange and Blue today. It is Cecil Lammey. It is Andrew Mason. It is the Denver Broncos. Now with more endorsements for Nathaniel Hackett. Welcome in the Broncos in London. Mace and I here in Colorado. And Mace, we did get George Paton to give an endorsement to Nathaniel Hackett, surprising even our very own Adam Schefter, who was on Schlereth and Evans this morning to talk about it. So let's you and I start there. How surprised were you that Paton gave that 100% full endorsement for Nathaniel Hackett?
I wasn't surprised at all. And I think there was something that was interesting in what Adam Schefter said. And we were talking about this just on the drive, just down the hall here just now with Derek Wolf and DMAC, because he said he was surprised, but maybe he shouldn't have been. And the reason why he says that is we all know what these press conferences, these questions are like, right?
Right.
When is a GM going to throw the coach under the bus, right? Not while they're on the job. It's called the dreaded vote of confidence because it always comes when things aren't going well. You don't have to give a vote of confidence when you're 5-2. The body of work does that for you, right? But you're 2-5. You've had mismanagement issues early in the season. The offense, when you hired an offensive coach like Hackett, is down near the bottom of the league in a lot of metrics. And so it is a situation that's gotten so bad where you need it. But was I surprised at what Paton said? Absolutely not. He was not going to back up the truck and go beep, beep, beep. That wasn't happening here.
Wasn't going to back over him, that's for sure. And, well, that's kind of what George Paton does. So, yes, dreaded vote of confidence in London, England. And, well, just go win. You know, one game against the Jaguars isn't going to change everything, but it could begin the turnaround. So, again, like, go in, win, get your bye, correct things, and come back out. Because the ultimate sin in the NFL is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and not learning from your mistakes. There have been plenty of mistakes this year. It's past time to clean those up, and it's past time for Nathaniel Hackett to get this thing right. He's feeling the pressure. Everybody knows it, and, of course, Paton's going to support him.
Yeah, of course he would. And there's no reason not to. He supported Vic Fangio, right? I mean, he kind of expressed support for him last year on multiple occasions. And so John Elway expressed support for Vance Joseph back when he was the GM and VJ was struggling both in 2017 and 2018. It's support until you are making the call to dismiss that coach.
Right.
Now, the question then becomes, if they lose this game, what happens then? And if they make a move, is it a George Paton call or is it a Greg Penner call? And I say Greg Penner, but I'm referring to all of the ownership because Greg Penner, Kerry Walton Penner, Rob Walton have been there at every game. They're the big three when this is concerned, and the big three doesn't look happy with what they're watching.
Yeah, the big three shouldn't be happy with what they're watching because at the stadium, the fans have let them know. And you have owners that will listen, owners that can do pretty much whatever you want to do from an ownership standpoint. And just, I think in business and in life, Mace, there's patience that's needed. And we're in too much of a microwave Twitter society where it's got to be now, fix now, change now. And it's like, that's not the way the business world or life really works. Be patient, but be ready to make a move if that's what you deem is necessary.
Right. And the thing is, if they do make a move, if it's in season, I mean, you've got a former head coach at 2 previous stops on your staff in Dom Capers. You have someone in Ishiro Evero who is going to get head coaching interviews. I think regardless of how the rest of this season goes for the Broncos, Evero is going to get some interviews in this cycle coming up here in January. So you have those two. And then if you wanted to keep it on the offensive side, I do not believe if you made a coaching change, if the head coach would be from offense on this point, just because of how it struggled. But you do have someone in Clint Kubiak who has called plays before. So if you make the move, you've got options here to get you through. And in the case of Evero, you have an option that maybe you might want to take a look at potentially if the season continues to go south. But it goes south in this way where the defense is top 3, top 4, and the offense is down near the bottom, then it's a scenario where you might want to take a look at him in much the same way Wisconsin's taking a look at our old friend Jimmy Leonard, the former Broncos safety right now.
Yeah, I call Jim Leonard a fair catch specialist, which is kind of what the Broncos need right now, because Jim Leonard, did he ever return a punt? He just stood back there and went like this and caught it. And that was it. Like, if he did, it was very, very rare if Jim Leonard actually returned a punt. But sometimes you just need that. Sometimes you need Emmanuel Sanders back there. Sometimes you need Eric Decker back there. Sometimes you need Jim Leonard back there, where it's like, okay, don't do anything, just catch it. And that's what Jim Leonard did for the Broncos. You
remember he didn't say this here in Denver, but he said this in Charlotte while I was coaching the Carolina Panthers. John Fox once said, quote, "Sometimes a punt is not a bad play," unquote. And I would argue sometimes the fair catch is not a bad play. It's the same kind of logic. By the way, Jimmy Leonard actually did return 15 punts.
Okay.
Back in the 2012 season. I had to go look it up because I'm like, because I feel they used him a reasonable amount because they just didn't trust Trindon Holiday to catch anything inside the 20 because he was so fumble prone. Right. So there were so many situations where they actually needed him. And if there was space, go ahead and return it, try to do something with it. I also, of course, remember Jimmy Leonard having one of his interceptions come in that big comeback win against the Chargers there. The one that drew parallels about 10 days ago when the Broncos were out in LA, like, oh, week 6, 10 years ago, 6th game for Russell Wilson, 6th game for Peyton Manning. Come on. But it didn't turn out that way. History rarely repeats itself like that, Cecil.
That's true. History does rarely repeat itself. It's Orange and Blue today. It is Cecil Lammey. It is Andrew Mason talking about the Denver Broncos. And what's interesting about this week with the trade deadline coming up on next Tuesday, it's watch for healthy scratches. Now, Alberto Cuebanam has been a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks just because he's not in their plans, which means maybe he's traded. You know, I'd actually feel better for him if he was traded. But, for example, around the league, and we're seeing teams already make moves, the Robert Quinn move, the James Robinson move, Kadarius Toney today. The Chiefs got themselves a former first-round wide receiver. Just when their wide receivers, McCole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, are kind of getting it, even Marcus Valdes-Scantling is getting it, they add another weapon. Like, so, like you got enough, KC. I think you're fine. But they're feeling that pressure of one day facing Buffalo in the postseason. So you're seeing trades already happen. But what for not only the Broncos game, Mace, but every single game this week, I'm going to be watching for the unusual healthy scratch. And we talked about Kenny Golladay yesterday, and like, oh, they don't like him. They don't like Kadarius Toney. Well, they already got rid of Toney. So we're going to be watching to see if the Broncos make a healthy scratch out of somebody, because for the reports of like, if they lose to the Jaguars, they will trade Bradley Chubb. No, that doesn't make sense. If they healthy scratch Bradley Chubb, then something's cooking.
Something's cooking, but I don't think you're going to see a healthy scratch on Bradley Chubb. Now, that being said, remember Von Miller was hurt last year going into the Washington game, and they didn't play him. So, but Von Miller was actually injured in that, and it turned out he actually wasn't himself in LA for about a month and a half. Like people forget. Vaughn, the first about 6 weeks he was in LA, I think he had 1 sack.
What was that first game that he got pancaked in that first game? And people were like chirping him, like, oh, look at Von Miller.
49ers, right? Against the Niners, I believe it was. Yeah. And then once he got healthy, he looked like Von Miller. And he's looked like vintage Vaughn, albeit being used in much the same way as DeMarcus Ware was when he was here. He's looked like that ever since. I mean, that's just a function of being healthy. I mean, so if Bradley Chubb is scratched, that's the tell. But because there isn't an injury with Chubb right now, I think they're going to go ahead and play him and roll the dice here.
Yeah, and then see whatever you get with whoever you get, and we'll watch out for that. By the way, I'm got Kadarius Toney on the brain, but he hasn't played since week 2. Yeah, he's got a hamstring injury. I bet he gets real healthy with Kansas City real fast.
Oh, he'll find a way. All of a sudden, with all respect to Daniel Jones, who's actually having a decent year.
Oh yeah.
When you've got Patrick Mahomes throwing passes and you're out of a situation that seems to be playing with your mind, I think it'll be fascinating to see just how quickly he gets up to speed, because I don't think it's going to take very long.
No, and for people that don't know, like Kadarius Toney was a first round pick.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. It's the same thing I feel about Jerry Jeudy, who
Mm-hmm.
the talent is never a question. It's more about like the focus, I would say, with Jerry Jeudy. Sometimes drops are a problem. Again, back to focus, but it's just focusing on his craft and getting open, because you go out there and you see, late round picks. You see guys like, let's take, for example, right here in Denver, Kendall Hinton. How often do I say every team wants Kendall Hinton? That, because he's not a superstar, but he does everything correct. Like he does all the little things. Quarterback's in trouble, come back to the ball. Like all these sorts of little things that he does correct. Like if Jerry Jeudy just focused on that, I don't care if he runs routes on the beach against his friends or in a park somewhere. Like that doesn't matter. And by the way, the route running, it's about timing. You can break ankles. A lot of people can break ankles in this league. But with Jerry Jeudy, he does like 7-8 moves, and now I'm open. Oh, wow, what a great move. Yeah, your quarterback's already off you then. So, like with Jeudy, sometimes a change of scenery is for the best.
Yeah, the thing with Jeudy, you mentioned Kendall Hinton breaking off his routes, and I think the interesting thing when I watch Jeudy and I watch Hinton is better when it gets beyond the structure of the route design for the wide receiver, because he's better at kind of thinking on his feet and then taking the thinking on his feet and actually applying it to what he does on the field. Jerry Jeudy can run the route as designed as well as anybody in the NFL. He's probably top 5 at that. But when it gets beyond the design, he struggles to kind of, to come back to the quarterback, to leap beyond what the structure of the play is. And honestly, that's a concern, because that's kind of instinctive, right? That's so basically Jerry Jeudy can do exactly what's designed, exactly what's told to him. But then when it's got to go beyond your instruction to where it is just you, your skills, your mind, and then your body doing what your mind tells you to do, that's where he runs into some trouble. Whereas Kendall Hinton, that's where he flourishes.
Yeah, he flourishes with the ad-lib type of stuff.
Yeah.
You got to improvise. Kendall Hinton's going to be your guy. And you have a quarterback in Russell Wilson who, when he's healthy, improvisation is his specialty.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just an odd fit. And the dirty secret in the NFL is it's all about fit. So Russell Wilson's going to play. I don't think we're breaking any news with that. I don't think he should play, Mace, honestly. And
you and me both.
It doesn't matter if he's 75% or whatever. No. Whatever you are this week, you could be more in 2 weeks. So I don't care if it's like 75, 85%. He's 90%. No. In 2 weeks, he'd be 95. I'd rather have a 95% Russell Wilson than to say he's 90. I don't think he's 90, brother. It's more like 75.
Yeah, and here's the thing. He's 75, but by going full speed, what happens if he exacerbates it? He goes back to 60. 40. Whereas, yeah. And then you're back to square one. I mean, Greg Dulcich with a hamstring is a great example of somebody who probably was ramped up a little too soon on multiple occasions and then kept falling back. So that you are running a risk with Russell Wilson here. I do wonder, Cease, if they'd be making this call to play Russell Wilson, as we both expect, if they'd be making this call if they were 4-3 rather than 2-5. Right. That is worth examining here. I'm not sure they would, even though it's the London game, and clearly for business reasons, the Broncos want him to play. The NFL wants Russell Wilson to play. Russ Inc. wants Russell Wilson to play. But I think there's the potential for this injury to get worse and then become something that really does cost him more weeks down the line. If I were the Broncos, I would have just sat there, said, we're going to get through one more week without him, get him through the bye. The goal would have been to have him ready on the backside against Tennessee. Look, with all respect to Jacksonville, with Brett Rippon out there, could the Broncos have had a chance against the Jaguars? Sure. I mean, they had a chance against a better team in the Jets. By the way, I know that I know DMAC makes the point on air that he thinks the Jaguars are a better team than the Jets. Well, they're a better offense than the Jets, but team is everything, right? The Jets are a better team overall. The Jets losing Breece Hall hurts, but the Jets have a stronger running game, and they have a much stronger defense. They have legitimately one of the best defenses in the game. The Jaguars don't, which is one reason why I think if you'd had Brett Rippon out there and allowed Russell Wilson to get healthy, I think Brett Rippon could have had an all right game on Sunday if he'd had to play in London.
Imagine what the difference would have been if they had beaten the Jets and the decision on Russell Wilson. You beat the Jets and Brett Rippon looks okay. Brett Rippon's never going to look great, okay? The self-fascination. I don't know what it is about this fan base, and God bless you, Broncos fans. Here's where I piss everybody off, Mace. But God bless you, Broncos fans. I don't know what your fascination is with bad backup quarterbacks, because how many times have we gone through it? Trevor Siemian, just give him a chance. And then Brett Rippon, I bet Rippon's better. No, he's not. No, God, no. Brett Rippon is not good, okay?
It's every fan base. It's almost every fan base feels this way. I mean, I can say this coming from Tampa. I remember being at a game in 1998 when it wasn't the second teamer, but the third teamer. There was a banner parade around Raymond James Stadium that had a slash through 12 through Trent Dilfer, pardon me, a slash through 4 for Steve Walsh, and it said, "We want Milanovic." Yeah, that's future CFL quarterback Scott Milanovic. This is the fascination with the backup. I assure you, this is not something that is strictly endemic to the Denver Bronco fan base. This is something that exists everywhere where there's some level of dissatisfaction with the starting quarterback. It's always, well, okay, this guy is struggling. Let's see how this guy does, because you haven't seen the flaws on it. Look, I'm sure there are still some people out there who will tell you that Kyle Sloter could have been the answer if he'd been given a shot. No, Kyle Sloter couldn't even stick on the Jaguars in preseason this year. Kyle Sloter had more interceptions than touchdowns playing in the USFL. Okay, everybody, stop it.
Please stop.
Yeah,
it.
Sorry
for yelling.
The mystery box might only have a pair of tickets to a comedy club. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The fascination with the mystery box.
What's in the box? Sometimes you don't want to know.
A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat.
That is right. It is orange or blue today. Mystery box talk abounds, and the Russell Wilson conversation continues because he's going to be out there and he needs help. This is where the commitment to the ground game. This is where Greg Dulcich, like having that young man make a difference. There needs to be some sort of explosive plays. I'm writing my 3 keys piece for denverfan.com. You'll be able to see it today and then tomorrow in the Denver Sports Daily. But my first key is no explosive plays, because Jacksonville's got those guys. You mentioned their offense. Like, they've got those guys that can make those explosive plays. If you fall asleep for just a little bit, like a Travis Etienne can rip off a 90-yarder. So you got to stay conscious of that, stay aware. On the Broncos side, man, it'd be nice if someone took a short pass and made it into a long game. It would sure be nice if Russell Wilson had some help out there.
It would. I mean, one thing that is fair to question here is whether, we were sold a bill of goods on the quality of skill position players. And look, you lose Tim Patrick, that hurts. You lose Javonte Williams, that hurts. But at the same time, Jerry Jeudy, we talked about him earlier. Cortland Sutton, he's clearly not all the way back from the ACL. He's got to wing jump balls. He's not a separation guy. And KJ Hamler, he has special traits, but they don't seem willing to use him. And also, to just kind of be clear on KJ Hamler, that dude has to go through a hell of a lot every day just to practice. In terms of stretching out, in terms of getting warmed up, because he's still dealing with soreness in the knee, in the hip. That's a residual of pushing on an area that had multiple injuries. Okay, so. But they should be getting him the ball more when he's out there. So the lack of explosiveness, it's a huge disappointment. Maybe we see something from Greg Dulcich as he gets more involved. But you look at the Broncos compared to the Jaguars. You talked about their explosiveness. They're getting something out of their investment in explosive players. Christian Kirk. People dog that contract, right?
It's a big contract.
Yeah. And you know what? He's on pace for like 1,300 yards and I believe 11 touchdowns. All right. He's for all the consternation about that deal, the dude's actually delivering the goods.
Mm-hmm. He's no Alvin Harper.
Exactly.
So you'd
He's
get
the
that.
opposite of Alvin Harper. Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of the times there'll be a number 2, and Alvin Harper's the
Mm.
first one that comes to memory. Peerless
Yeah.
Price was another one. But like when Alvin Harper was across from Michael Irvin and he was the man, and then Tampa Bay is like, let's pay him.
Yeah.
and he became the number 1, and he wasn't as good. With Kirk, they paid him like a number 1. And you know what, Mace? He's producing like a number 1. So that young quarterback, why is Trevor Lawrence looking better this year? One, it's his growth, and it's Doug Peterson, blah, 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 blah. But it's also those weapons, Marvin's Jones Jr., those weapons are actually coming through for that young man.
Yeah, Marvin Jones Jr. Zay Jones is having another solid season. And Zay is like he showed this with the Raiders. Zay is like that perfect number 2. Like Zay is kind of like another Tim Patrick at this point, right? Like he's not a wide receiver 1, but he's really trustworthy and he's really reliable. And then you touched on Etienne earlier. The reason why they could afford to trade James Robinson is because Etienne's averaging 6.1 yards a carry and nearly 11 yards of reception. He's incredibly explosive. When he gets the ball, you know what? Especially with Baron Browning out, and you're going to have to get by with Cooper and Benito on that side opposite Bradley Chubb. By the way, if Benito's out there, I think the Jaguars are going to run right at Benito. That's something to watch for. And Etienne is liable to rip one off going to that side of the field.
Yeah. So big plays can abound. Yeah. It'd be nice if you had some on the other side because Russell Wilson is not himself and he needs help. And that means offense. You got to come through with an explosive. Don't try to do too much, please, Melvin Gordon, for the love of God. Hang on to the rock because at this point, you get that level of desperation where I've got to make the play and I've got to do it. No, let it be organic. Make the play if you can, but don't force it because that's how those fumbles and those mistakes happen.
Yeah, and one thing I admire about Melvin Gordon is that he does fight for every yard, but it's when he fights for the yards that he fumbles. And there was a moment last Sunday against the Jets where he was fighting and he got stretched out and ceased. I get nervous when I see him stretching out because that's when the bad things happen. But you can't take that out of him. That's in his DNA. I mean, how do you tell a player not to fight for the extra yard? I mean, isn't that what we should be doing all the time in life, fighting?
Right.
But at the same time, when you put the entire operation in jeopardy because you're fighting for the extra yard, it is fair to say, okay, you got to reel it back in and be a little bit conservative. Discretion is a better part of valor, as the cliche goes. I mean, you look at the Raider game, for example. He gets in there. He hasn't played. He's trying to get the extra yard, and boom, the ball comes out. And you can argue the Broncos lost the game because of that. That play, Cecil, was probably at least a 9-point swing because the Raiders got the TD, didn't get the PAT, and the Broncos were in field goal range, and what the Broncos lose by 9. There you go.
Right. There's the number. 9 times. Orange
9 times?
9 times. There, Bueller. It's Cecil Lammey. It's Andrew Mason. I really hope there's a defensive turnover. I hope there's a Pat Surtain pick 6 because Trevor Lawrence can make some mistakes. And if you're Surtain, you're not going to get tested a whole lot, but kind of, hey, Marvin Jones is open. No, he's not. Like, kind of okey doke. Pull the okey doke on Trevor Lawrence. That'd be nice, because part of Russell Wilson getting help is the defense is doing so much. And I hate to ask for more, but I'm going to ask for more because the defense needs to score to help this offense because they're not scoring.
And also, you figured Amari Mathis is going to be in the spotlight and Trevor Lawrence is going to throw in his direction. We saw Damari Mathis make that play on the ball late against the Chargers in the midst of all the pass interference penalties, and maybe 1 or 2 of them were ticky-tack. He did make the play late. You're going to need Damari Mathis to make a play on the ball and maybe get an interception because there will be opportunities for that. Now, Trevor Lawrence, it's different than last year. He did throw at Pat Surtain. Of course, it was Surtain's second game, but the word was already starting to get out that PS2 was locked down. He did throw at him, and Surtain got picked off. I don't think Lawrence is going to be throwing willy-nilly at Surtain unless the Jaguars are behind. But if he does, he's going to take advantage. But to me, the key is Damari Mathis is going to have to take advantage of those opportunities to make plays because they're going to be there.
Yep, they are going to be there, and just like we are going to be there for you. What a transition.
Nice.
Mace, it's like I'm a radio professional, podcast professional. I don't know, video, vlog. Are we vlogging with the soft
Vlog.
J?
Oh, I have trouble saying that word. Blog flows off the tongue. Vlog. It's the vlog. Just
right.
And when I first saw it, I thought it was that vlog, and they're like, no, it's vlog.
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 You when you say vlog, you want to say gesundheit. Like
yeah, it sounds like I'm
vlog.
got some phlegm, that I'm trying to choke up here. I've got enough issues at this moment. I don't need that too.
All right. It is Orange and Blue today. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. We thank you guys for watching. Thank you very much for hanging out with us every day at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Be back tomorrow. Until then, see ya. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.